So Dan, sports is back, and lots going on, and a lot of expectations, of course, from buyers who really want to be part of sports. It happens at a time when there's a lot of different competing platforms and media, but sports has a unique value, of course. Tell us a little bit about the unique value of sports and live TV, and what you guys are doing with some partners, buyers, platforms to make the experience more engaging, perhaps, and more valuable for media investment.
Yeah, first of all, I'm so excited right now. This time of year, especially, certainly there's a lot going on in the world. There's no doubt about that. You can't ignore that. The fact is, though, sports is something that continues to resonate, right? Even in times like this. And there are certainly distractions, and people can have anything they want at the click of a button. And that's something else that is certainly growing and going to get more and more pronounced. But when it comes to sports, it's really the only thing that you have to tune in right then and there because you don't know when that moment's going to happen. So the passion that people have toward their teams and their players, they need to see it in real time. Now, how we work with brands in order to make sure that you can be a part of those moments is what we do. And we love doing it. So at Fox Sports, especially this time of year, with college football going on, the NFL going on, postseason baseball in full swing, and so many other things, the breakthrough opportunities that we provide for brands is something that we do all day and have been doing a long time. But you asked the question about what we're doing that's unique and helping brands. So what we talk a lot about is breaking through with brands. Now, the difference with breaking through with brands, that's sitting down with a brand directly, sitting down with the agency partners, understanding those business objectives, understanding the product insights and the thematics and the narrative. What are you trying to communicate and how are you trying to portray your brand within the sports space? Because let's face it, people are coming for the sports content. Now, if you interrupt their experience with something that's not relevant, it's not going to resonate as well as if you bring something that is authentic and relevant. So we're doing a lot of solution providing to brands across the board.
So you come from an agency background. You've been in the racket for a while. Moving over to the seller side a year and a half ago. Putting yourself in the buyer seat, what are some of the demands that you see what they want? And of course, it depends on the marketer and the brand, but how do you think the expectations of buyers have changed for sports programming?
Yeah, I would say that I don't think it's really changed over time in what the expectations and what the wants are, right? The wants are the opportunity to break through in a scaled way. Effectiveness is always going to be important. Efficiency is always going to be important, right? And that's not different for the industry. It's always been the way. The challenge now, and your question's a good one, the challenge now is how do you achieve that? Particularly in a world where we come back to what I said earlier, is we live in an on-demand world, right? All of these spaces are basically areas where commercial avoidance has become that consumer behavior. So now the challenge is how do you put your messaging within those spaces that are not commercial avoidance opportunities? What I mean by that is the sports space, right? So within sports right now is your brand needs to be authentic and relevant within that space. When I was representing brands before, it was no different, but now the capability and the opportunity and the need is so much more important because of the fact that consumers can see and do anything they want at any point they want it.
So tell us a little bit about some, examples, the kind of work you're doing with some brands, what your studio does on a customized way, and also some technology and platforms that are noteworthy that we should talk about.
Yeah, for sure. So right now there's a few brands that we're working with literally as we speak. GMC comes to mind. Two different things. For one, we just launched a content series where in the NFL during Thursday Night Football, we've created content using NFL legends going back to the cities in which they played, right? And they're driving around town and they're speaking about their experience. And that's something that, again, I mentioned authentic and relevant. The authenticity of that player, take it maybe Andre Reed in Buffalo when he played there, and he's going through that content series that where it's so relevant to the actual game itself and what a consumer is watching, particularly when it is the Buffalo Bills that are playing. So that's one example. Another example that we just launched in the World Series Game 1 also happens to be a GMC brand, the Hummer EV. The launch of that product is something that is so massive for that company. We did quite simply a throw to by Joe Buck, and that throw to shows the power of linear television, because what we saw on the Google Analytics, literally within seconds, the search term, and it just went through the roof. Now, some people may have been searching for more information, maybe to pre-order, which is what GMC was hoping would happen, or maybe just what was the music in that, who was the opening, narrative, the voiceover in that spot. And that, again, is the great opportunity with linear television. It provides that sight, sound, and motion opportunity for people then to engage further with their other devices that are sitting right by their side. Other example, one more I'll give you is Samsung. A little bit different, right? Because Samsung, this example is very much about technology and providing new experiences for viewers. So what this one's all about is enhancing a viewer's experience using 5G technology. It lives within our app. So again, there's a second screen opportunity here. We're promoting it using linear television as well as digital, but we created this experience specifically for what Samsung was trying to deliver. And that's the key. No matter what we do for brands, we're always looking to provide solutions for what that brand is looking for, and not here's what's for sale today.
And what about creativity and media that lives in certain DMAs? Because with sports, of course, certain games are only shown in certain DMAs. How does that fit into the creative process or the planning process?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because ultimately it comes back to that relevancy, right? So you want to be relevant within that market. And when you're talking about national opportunities, you're also trying to engage as many people as possible. So we do thread that needle, and that Bills example is a good one. Now, there's other examples that I can say, because when you get into the content and the athletes that we choose, right, a lot of times you're choosing those athletes based on those markets. And so you're going to have a little more relevancy in that market. But the good news is the players that we usually choose are also nationally known, right? So you have that local market affinity, you have the consumers and fans in that market that know exactly what they're talking about, and the others are kind of watching that content and understanding what that's like as well. So there's a combo of the both.
And finally, you've been buying media for many years on the other side. The reasons that you bought were, I guess, based on reach and demo, and now media buyers have a lot of opportunities to use all sorts of different tools and data sets. There's also an expectation around performance and attribution, and how has sort of the expectation of the buy side changed, would you say? You talk about relevance, which is clear. What about results and what you can prove, and kind of performance? Those are pretty big issues, particularly when people are concerned about spending and efficiency.
Absolutely. So we do talk a lot about effectiveness, and we do as much custom research as we possibly can. The research that we continue to see is that to the masses, right? I mean, there's still such a huge opportunity within the linear television space, and it works. The sight, sound, and motion, that connectivity that people have with that best screen that's in the room. Yes, there are also multi-devices, and you can multi-screen or multi-task at the same time. But when you're providing that content on that big screen and really generating the emotional connection, that is something that is driving the research, and the results continue to show that it's working. Now, the other things that we do, and I mentioned before in the Hummer example, is the search correlation studies that we do as well. You can see that when you actually expose someone to a message And there's a reason, here's the key, right? There's a reason within that thematic or within that commercial for someone to search and look for more. People are doing that. And that's something that we continue to see more and more, that it is working and it's driving more of that additional information that people want. And sometimes people just want to be entertained more, they want to be informed more, and they want to be engaged more. So that's something else that we're looking at. And ultimately, the studies we also do is the transactions. Is people see when the results are strong, when television is turned on, as well as even the digital extensions, when it's turned on, you can see immediate transactions. We have seen in the overall marketing landscape, the technology companies, the direct to consumer companies, they're all investing a lot of money in television, and they have the most amazing tools to show and to prove that it's working. So the fact is they're continuing to invest in the space because it is in fact working.